I'm Richard Gearhart, founder of Gearhart Law, a full service intellectual property law firm specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I work at Gearhart Law doing the marketing and I have my own startup.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the road to entrepreneurship, where we talk with small businesses, entrepreneurs, and discuss the intellectual property that helps protect their ideas. Today on the show, we have a very special guest, a man whose work is very close to my heart, Frederick Cary. He's the founder of IdeaPros, and he's also a business and thought leader and strategic consultant. And I can't wait to hear what he has to tell our audience.
And after Frederick's interview, we have two incredible presenters. We can't wait to hear from them. Janelle Thomason with Cosmakery and the Makeup Loft, and she is rated very highly on The Knot. If you don't know what that is, stay tuned. We'll let you know. And then Cliff Brown with Athlete Innovations, and this is truly an innovation. I'm going to let him explain it because I've never seen anything like this before. It's very cool. And then we'll be on with our show.
It sounds amazing. But before we get to our distinguished guests, it's time for IP in the news. And Elizabeth, who is our IP in the news this week?
Well, Ford Motor Company, change your name to Big Brother. Because this is an article by Becky Sullivan, and it was on npr.org. And the title is A New Ford Patent Imagines a Future in Which Self-Driving Cars Repossess Themselves. So you pay your car payment, boom, it's going back.
I guess that's just the natural thing. If the car can drive itself, why do you have to hire a repo man, right? So, but some of the stuff that they put in the patent is just absolutely hilarious. Like, if the value of the car is not so good, it can drive itself to a junkyard.
So my God. Ford has said it just because it patented all this stuff, it doesn't mean it's actually going to do it.
No, never. I mean, come on, give me a break. Of course they're going to do that.
Disable the air conditioner or use the audio system to play something obnoxious. I think tortured somebody with Baby Shark somewhere. What's Baby Shark?
So that's a new one. So if you don't make your car payments, you get cold in the winter and you get hot in the summer, and it just makes the car undrivable. So how many different ways can they torture us? Anyway, this is the Ford Motor Company.
Well, a self-driving car, but I'm kind of second thoughts now.
I don't blame you. It's not so much this patent, because after all, we do make our car payments. But the problem is they're putting all this weird technology in there that you really can't control. So who knows what else they're going to put in there, right? So, and maybe if the police find out that you've committed a crime, they're going to drive you to the police station, right? So you would have your options are limited, right?
What if it's a choice between either somebody you hit could die or you could die in the car? What does it do? Just like, okay, how old is this one? How old is that one? What's their earning potential?
Yeah, right. That's the old, if the car is headed toward a bus full of school children, who gets saved, you or the kids, right? So
anyway, I don't think, I don't know.
Anyway, I think it's time to move to our guests and see what they have to say. So Frederick, welcome to the show. So good to see you. What are your thoughts on all this?
And I have been in, years ago, I was in the car business where we had a kind of a self turn off. So it's nothing new. The technology, the way they're trying to do it is new. The problem is, what if they lock the car and repo the car when there's a baby in the back seat? What if they shut down a car when there's some woman trying to get into her vehicle and she's being attacked? There's so many possibilities or you're stranded on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere and you're waiting for somebody to come help start your car, and now you're just stuck. I mean, there's so much legal downside to something like that. Maybe a great idea, especially if they had 5-day warning. Hey, in 5 days your car is going to be shut down. On the day of, do not get in your car, do not drive your car. It's not going to work. But if you just do it spur of the moment like that, Ford Motor Company may be finding themselves in a class action lawsuit.
Well, I think you raise a great point. I mean, what if the leasing company makes a mistake, or the car company makes a mistake and doesn't register a payment that you made? You know,
Yeah.
I think it's all sorts of trouble.
Which happened to me once, by the way. It took me a year and a half to get that off my credit.
We know about stuff
we-
like that.
we feel your
We
pain.
won't go there, but
Yeah.
someday we'll tell you the story. Anyway.
Yeah.
Kenya?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Frederick. I think there's definitely a liability there, but I feel like they're pretty smart and they will send people like a little disclaimer ahead of time, like letting them know when exactly it's going to happen. What's interesting though is that they're creating this for a reason, right? And I wonder, like, do they see that there's going to be a high probability of repos in, you know, the near future? And if this is just a way for them to not just offset costs, but like foresee like kind of where things are economically and what we're currently all forecasting
So they're
and hope not to go through, by the way.
they're
Yeah.
doomer and gloomers, huh? You think that they're
I
expecting that
do.
people are going to start defaulting on their car payments?
Potentially.
Yeah. Well,
Potentially.
I mean, they can be tougher if they can automatically repossess your car, because that's probably cheaper to do that than hire a repo agency that they have to pay. And then the guy has to find the car. And so they can just drive it away. Then that's, less expense for them. So maybe they'll be less lenient on late payments. Anyway, yeah. Cliff, what are your thoughts?
I mean, what are we trying to accomplish? I mean, people not paying their car payments. I mean, what if someone is in the car and they didn't know? What if, you have an aunt or a cousin that's driving a car and it gets repossessed, they didn't know? Like, they get just gonna go away with it? Like, I don't know. It's just,
Yeah, I think that this is going to kill the self-driving car industry. I do
I'm just
this.
trying to figure out, are we really trying to really save costs and take, humans from out of doing jobs, and we're going to rely on computers? I mean, we're about a light switch away from going down if we're going that route.
Oh my gosh, we all had, not all of us, but most of us had technical difficulties getting on this.
Right. So
I did.
there's no guarantees.
Lives to get into technology. Yeah. Right.
I remember I was in court once, and there was somebody ahead of me who had a traffic ticket, and it was his third time being caught traveling 130 miles an hour down the highway in the middle of the night. And the guy said, look, if you take away my license, I'm not going to be able to get to work. I'm not going to be able to pay the rent. And I'm not going to be able to take care of my mother. So the judge let him off the hook. Right. And which I was kind of amazed, because I think 3 times flying down the highway at 130 miles per hour is
The judge
grounds for
probably
some sort of penalty.
the judge
Right.
probably does it himself. Gets his hot round up in the middle of the night, stop and stretch a highway.
But my point is once you take the human element out of it, and
Yeah.
you're making these decisions by a computer, I'm not sure you always get the results. This judge, admonished the guy and said, don't do it again, and I'll throw the book at you next time. But he was able to give somebody a second chance. And I don't know that these computers
Or
will
a
do
fourth
that.
Third chance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth chance.
Janelle, what do you think?
Well, living in Ford country, basically, I'm about 20 minutes from Ford headquarters, and I've had the pleasure of doing makeup for actually quite a few of Ford CEOs over the years. I'll make sure what I'm saying is very carefully and well thought out. But being a mother of 2, one on the way, I'm 8 months pregnant right now as we speak. I'm kind of a control freak, and I'm definitely a control freak when it comes to being behind the wheel. And maybe I'm a little old school in the fact that I want to drive my own car still. I know that this is the future, and I know this is the way of the world, but I don't even let certain people drive my children. It's a very choice view. So am I going to put my family's life in the hands of a computer? At some point I probably will have to, but as long as I can hold out, I probably will be doing so.
Yeah.
I can't disagree. I love to drive. Right. I enjoy it. And to me, it's a good experience. I'm a careful driver. They cite safety statistics, right? But who knows? We don't know.
We
what
don't know where the
future holds.
future's going. We'll
So,
see.
I'm sure the CEO of Ford doesn't even know this patent exists, by the way. So in any case, now it's time for our featured guest today, Frederick Cary. And IdeaPros is such a fantastic organization, Frederick. I'm so glad that you're on the show because I'm sure your message will hit home with so much of our audience. And so tell us about IdeaPros and how it helps entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I probably should start out saying that in some cases it was the stupidest idea I ever had in my life, because we have had this volume of requests of people to work with us, and it has been overwhelming. It's the hardest I've ever worked in my life, and I've started 2 public companies, been acquired by 2 other public companies, so I've been in the heat. But having 400 entrepreneurs that are all starting new businesses from scratch, it's pretty overwhelming. But I looked at the statistics, and everybody with Instagram and Facebook, entrepreneurship is the thing to do, and everybody makes it look so easy. But when you look at the statistics, 94% of the multi-millionaires, the billionaires in the entrepreneurial space all went to really great universities. Over half of them went to MBA programs with those schools. They have the insider scoop. They know how to talk to finance. They know how to get connections with venture capital. And the rest of us don't have that. They don't have that ability. So these insiders have this unfair advantage. And I started IdeaPros to make everybody an insider.
That's awesome.
So what kind of projects does your company take on? Do you take on everybody who wants to work with you?
There's only so many people that could be entrepreneurs. When you look at it and you look at the magic of it, the 24-year-old sitting with his Lamborghini in front of his $30 million home that he rented for 3 hours, you think, wow, this is going to be me and I can be famous overnight. But the reality is, you got to be absolutely crazy to be an entrepreneur. You got to be relentless. You got to look at failure as something that is an opportunity to do better. And only those people have any opportunity to make it. I can give them the inside scoop, but I also prepare them for the battle. This is a 15-round heavyweight prize fight, and you're going to get your butt kicked all the way through it till you make it to the end and win at the end of it. So we're looking for 2 things. We're looking for somebody that really has an entrepreneurial spirit, wants to change their life, doesn't want to get their foot in the water. They're going to give up everything in order to try to make this work because they're so passionate about it. And then we look for something that's a really good idea or a pretty good idea in a really nice space, because we literally, when we work with an entrepreneur, we do everything, from that raw idea to taking a company with a nationwide launch. And that's a lot of work. So you have to have the right people and you have to have the right business idea.
So do you limit it to a certain number of people per year that you'll take?
Unfortunately, I've had to do that. I've had, over the last 2 years, we've had 100,000 applications to work with us. And mind you, this flagship program that I had, you had to pay $100,000 or more up front and give us 30% of the business we're going to start together. And even with checking off that I want to pay you 100,000, we had 100,000. That's $10 billion worth of offers, and we can only take 500 people just because of the volume of work. So now I've created all these little programs, including free programs, so we can help everybody. But it's a lot of heavy lifting to create a brand new business from an idea.
Right. So what do you think is the differentiating factor between those who succeed and those who don't?
The biggest failure of new businesses is that the entrepreneur has created something that nobody wants. That's number one. That's even above not having enough money. And so the biggest failure fact, there's a couple. The biggest one is not doing your research. When we start with any person that comes in, they come in and I have a great idea. Well, how do you know? My friends love it. My mom says it's so cool. I haven't seen anything like it on the internet. Well, how long did you spend on Google? I did a 30-second search. There was nothing like what I'm doing. And so it's the same thing if you ask a coach, like any one of us want to be a coach for a professional team, and they say, hey, you're going to be a coach for this professional team. Well, what does it do? Well, I don't know. Well, what sport are you playing? I don't know. How many players am I going to have? I don't know. Who's the opposition? Opposition. I have no clue. You would not do that in sports, but that's how we all enter into business, not knowing the size of the market, the growth of the market opportunity, who the competitors are, what their weaknesses are, because you're not going to tackle their strengths. You're going to go after their weaknesses. Who's your ideal customer? What are they missing? What are they not getting from these other competitors? And how can I position myself and differentiate myself to go in there and take a lot of market share? How can I be the Apple to the IBM and the Microsoft, basically? We don't do any of that stuff as outside entrepreneurs. That's the number one thing. Number two thing is we don't know how to talk to investors, because we all need money and we all want to go in and talk about how amazing and radical and new our idea is. An investor is going to sit there and go, oh my God, I'm taking a big risk on this person. They've never done it before. They have this radical idea. They don't have any proof that it's even going to work, and they want my money. You know, you have to learn how to talk to an investor. An investor wants to hear, hey, you know, this has been done 3 times before. These are the 3 companies that have done it. In 2 years, each of them have gotten to be $1 billion in valuation. And yet there's all these 1-star reviews from all their customers about this one thing that none of them are giving them. I'm not smarter than anybody else, but I've created that one thing that everybody wants. And so I'm laying on top of those 3 other billion-dollar companies and providing the real solution that these customers want. Therefore, I think I can take a lot of market share. Now, if I'm an investor, I've just spoken to in a way that an investor wants to hear, and I'm going to go grab my checkbook. We don't know how to do that stuff.
That's an amazing bit of advice. Kenya, do you have a question for Frederick?
I do, Frederick. So I'm curious to know whether you think entrepreneurism can be taught or it's an innate quality that someone has.
I don't think it's an innate quality at all, because there's 3 components to it that are, well, part of it's innate. You have to start out being different. You know, you're in school and you were that different guy or girl in school, and you kind of always felt a little bit outside. You wanted to do things your own way. That is in your blood. But to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to have knowledge. You know how to have to play the investor game, and you need to be able to be persistent and persevere and never give up, because every single entrepreneur you can look at, in fact, go look up 15 billionaires that were homeless, and you'll see people like Oprah and other folks like that started from the dirt, and they just never gave up. You know, and because every one of us is going to face failure. Every one of us is going to run into that brick wall, and it's only the ones of us that can pick ourselves back up, get the Band-Aids on our faces, and try to run through that wall faster that are going to make it. So you have to have knowledge, connections, and that willing to learn and willing to never fail. And that's what it takes.
Those are great comments. I mean, Gearhart Law started as an entrepreneurial venture. You know, I started with in the attic with a computer and a phone and a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. And so in a lot of ways, I can relate to the entrepreneurial journey. And that's part of the reason why we do this show, is because we want to help entrepreneurs be successful. But it hasn't been a smooth ride. I mean, you have to, you go through turbulent times at least a couple of times a year, right? And you just kind of almost learn to just expect that, okay, 6 months from now, I'm going to be miserable for a couple of months as I fix this problem, but then I'm going to fix it and we're going to go on to the next stage, right? And it just has happened so often that it hardly phases me anymore, because I kind of almost plan around it, whether whether it can be on different things. It can be on a financial issue or a marketing issue or, whatever, but it's, and it's always something new, and you're like, geez, why didn't I see that coming? But you find out about it.
Part of it too is that you have to hire other people to do stuff, and they don't have your same drive and vision. And I remember we saw Tony Robbins a few years ago, and he said, I have companies worth $6 billion. What do you want to bet? Somebody at one of those companies is really screwing something up right now. As I stand on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned a couple of things that, well, everything you said is important, of course, because you're the host and I have to say that, otherwise
Yes,
I'm out
by
of the
definition,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yes, of course.
So, but you said a couple of different things. You talked about working up in your attic, right? And Hewlett Packard started out working out of their garage. You talked about having that only one light bulb, and Thomas Edison, it took him 1,000 tries to get the light bulb right. And in fact, he was asked, well, what does it feel like to fail 999 times? And he said, I didn't. I just found 999 ways that I couldn't create what I wanted to create. And so therefore we have this big issue of that perseverance, because everybody looks at companies like Airbnb and I want to be Airbnb. Well, Airbnb started out with a couple of air mattresses in a 1-bedroom apartment in San Francisco, renting the air mattresses out for $80 a night. And they were so strapped for money when you had the Obama-McCain election, they created giant cereal boxes with Obama O's and McCain flakes or something, and sold those online to try to make enough money to make payroll. And everybody looks at these multi-billion-dollar worldwide organizations and thinks that that's how they start. We all have that pain, and it happens every day. You have macro issues and you have micro issues, right? What's burning inside the home and what's the world doing? I mean, the world has screwed us over here for the last 3 years. And yet there are a lot of opportunities, and Airbnb and Google and even General Electric all came out of really bad economies. And so if you're an entrepreneur and you're going through those struggles, it's a great time to be an entrepreneur, because you can start moving forward when everybody else is hunkering down.
Right. I mean, we've done well we did well in the economic downturn of 2008. We did well during COVID. And that's because we were able to be flexible and, address the needs of our clients.
Pivot.
And so you're constantly pivoting. I mean, the way our law firm looks now is really different than it looked 3 years ago,
Yeah.
in terms of the types of business that we're doing, even though it's all intellectual property services. And
Yeah.
every time you come out of it, you've learned something, right? And you're better at what you do. So,
Yep.
And that's part of the satisfaction of being an entrepreneur, I think, is that growth, right?
Yeah.
That comes
Yeah.
from the challenges. So,
Yeah.
So what gave rise to IdeaPros? What was the inspiration for the company?
Probably because I'm never going to retire, and so I decided I'm going to work harder than I ever have in my life. That's got to be it. But
Right there with you, Frederick.
the underlying thing that got me started with it is, you spend the first half of your life building up your resume and the second half building up your legacy. And I took a couple of companies public, had a couple of companies acquired by public companies, have a private company that's doing close to $1 billion in business a year. And I felt it was time to really contribute back. And when I looked at those statistics about the insiders, that 1 or 2% being the ones that are really successful as entrepreneurs, I looked for the solutions for the other 98, 99%, and there really aren't any. There's all these little pinpoint opportunities, pinpoint solutions for them that don't make any sense. It's like needing brain surgery and searching online to find the best brain surgery equipment, instead of finding out people that can help you and mentor you and guide you through this whole process. That didn't exist. And so that's why I created Entrepreneurship. It was 55% of Americans have started their own businesses, and yet only 17% of them at any given time are entrepreneurs. That's a lot of failure. Plus there's we have a pregnant guest on here. You'll be happy to know this. There's 550,000 new entrepreneurs born every single month, and that's almost double our birth rate. We have twice as many entrepreneurs as babies coming out, and nobody's helping the entrepreneurs. So that's why I started IdeaPros, to really make a difference and educate people and give them that insider knowledge that they need to be successful.
Do you have a success story? I just wonder, do you have a story you could tell about somebody that went through your program and really came out great the other end?
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is they're just coming out now. In fact, I have a press release coming out later this week. So I don't have any companies yet that are making $1 billion, but I have several companies that have launched in a variety of industries. One is called Raw Beauty Co. We have our fashion guest on here, all raw materials, beautiful product. They're really kicking butt, and it's rawbeautyco.com. And she spent 5 years traveling the world to find all the best ingredients. It's a beautiful story. And she's launched nationwide now. We have another company called, and it's a double entendre, excuse it. It's called Pocket Rocket. And it is a 2-ounce pure energy. It's liquid caffeine, liquid organic caffeine. You take a little shot of it, and within about 30 seconds, you're going to never buy 5-hour energy again. I have another company that's in the B2B space that's called Hive that has just launched. And what Hive did is we've created the old-fashioned pallets, wooden pallets that haven't changed in 100 years. We've created same strength, completely modular, out of cardboard, and they weigh 1/10 the weight, no nails, no splinters, no back injuries. Because they're modular, you can store 10 times as many of them as you were able to do otherwise. And we're working with UPS Global right now, and we're dealing with Microsoft on some really big deals in that one. And we have tons of others, including little products that are really meant for just a small consumer business. But we really have a bunch of things that we think are going to revolutionize the world in many different ways.
Awesome.
That's great. So we have to take a commercial break, and we'll be back with more of Frederick Cary from IdeaPros right after this message. You're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart.
Great.
Okay, thanks.
So can I bring us back?
Of course.
And Kenya, do you have a question? Are you ready?
I am.
Okay.
Okay.
Before you bring us back, hey, Lily, can you get the damn dog out of here?
And I'm gonna move really quick too. Okay, hold on. Okay.
Lily, get Maya out of here. She's being a terror. She's barking.
It's so funny. We don't even hear her. I mean, at least I don't.
Well, because I have this incredible Yeti microphone that I got it pointed
Oh,
right at
okay.
me.
Got it.
So, yeah, and thank God I got it working. Otherwise, it would have
That's
been a
funny.
disaster.
Okay.
Okay. Are we ready?
All right.
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, listeners, to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. And our special guest today, Frederick Cary, founder of IdeaPros, a business thought leader, and a strategic consultant. We've been talking to Frederick about how entrepreneurs succeed and how they fail. And now we're going to go to our media maven, Kenya Gipson, for the next question.
So we were talking a little bit before the break about like this entrepreneurial renaissance that's going on. And I'm curious to see if you think that is due to this generational like shift that's going on when it comes to entrepreneurship, or do you think that it's been like a societal mind shift that's alluded to this?
You know, that's a great question. Not to say that the questions of our host are not great, but
everybody always does that. They tell Kenya her questions are great. And they're like, yeah, well, you guys are okay.
Thank you.
Well, it's a mind shift, but it's a mind shift that has been created by social media, I believe. When I was a kid, which they had children back in my time, when we looked at the people we admired, who are the rich people, you know, it was the doctors and lawyers that lived in the neighborhood, the movie stars, the rock stars. That's really who it was. it wasn't entrepreneurs. You didn't think about entrepreneurs back then as being, even though they were, you didn't think about them as being these kind of revolutionaries that are changing the world. And now, well, largely through social media, you have this painting of entrepreneurship as this incredible thing that anybody can do, and it's really easy. Just put your mind to it. You know, take one lesson, spend 15 minutes getting Google certified, and go out there and make your billions. And so part of that shift is taking place because that's what we're being fed all day long. I don't think it's really anything to do with everybody's waking up and thinking this. You're being programmed to an extent. There's a danger in that because, as I said, the vast majority of people who are successful as entrepreneurship have that knowledge, have the insider scoop. They know what to be building, what not to be building. And the fact of the matter, as I said earlier, the biggest failure point for entrepreneurs is they've made something that nobody wants. There's no market for, no demand for. They made it because they went to their mom, and their mom's like, "Great idea, son." And that's as far as they went, you know. And so the lack of knowledge, the lack of appropriate funding, the lack of really understanding the place you're going in there and trying to dominate. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, it's $100 billion market, and if we can get 1% of it, we're going to be $1 billion business. It doesn't happen. Nobody gets 1% of anything. You get crushed, you know. And so you have to go in with a market plan that's really well thought out. Even if you're going to be a dentist, how am I going to, there's 20 dentists around me. How am I going to stand out? No matter what your business is, you got to find some way to be different. And we're not taught that. We're not even taught how to balance a checkbook in high school. So God forbid we'd be taught entrepreneurship.
So Frederick, do you recommend for entrepreneurs then they do a lot of A/B type testing or market testing of their idea before they make a huge investment in it? Do you think that's critical?
You know, before that point, they really need to understand it's like the coach that's out on the field. You know, wait, what game am I playing? What are the rules? Who are my assets? Who are my players? Who am I playing against? Where are they going to kick my butt? And where can I beat them? And how am I going to win that audience over? Those are the fundamentals in any business that most entrepreneurs don't even consider. I have a bunch of free stuff, by the way, on my website, if it's appropriate to talk about that will really give you a playbook of what you should be doing and a lesson for me as to why you should be doing it. So I'm happy to share that with your audience if you like at any point.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Where can they find this information?
Okay. So IdeaPros.com/radio. And there is a free checklist that goes through every element of what you should be doing and why you should be doing it. And there's about an 18-minute video for me talking further about those things, letting you understand why, if you can imagine yourself years ago in this auditorium with 1,000 people, and this little skinny guy in a black shirt shows up and says, "Hey guys, I want to start this new computer company, and I want to compete against IBM. I want to compete against Microsoft and digital equipment, and I want to call it Apple." There's nobody in the 1,000 people that would raise their hand and say, "That's a great idea. What an awesome name," right? So you have to understand the things that you go to your audience for and the things that you need to internalize, because it's the most evocative names, even derogatory names like Virgin for an airline. Who would vote for that? And you know, it turns out that you're the Virgin when you go on that airline because they want you to have an experience like you've never had before. And so all these different elements of what you do in business, why you do it, how you distinguish yourself, those are critical things that you have to do if you want to be successful. And you get all those for free on IdeaPros.com/radio. Also, we have a /blog page that I'm particularly proud of because I didn't have anything to do with it. I did all the content, and my marketing people put it all together, categorized it, and anything you want to learn about entrepreneurship is all there for free. And then on Instagram at official Fred Cary, Cary. I have about 500,000 people on there every day. and I'm just talking about entrepreneurship and motivation and positivity and taking care of you before you take care of your business, and aligning your passion with what it is that you want to do for your life. So there's a lot of free resources for all of your listeners.
That sounds like a great start. And I do have to say, I really love your analogy about somebody wanting to be a coach, but not knowing the game or the players, right? I think that that is very powerful. I'm wondering, how does somebody go about gathering all of that information to start with? How do you start pulling that together?
Well, you can either go to an Ivy League school and get an MBA. You can work with me, or you can, there is a lot of material online. The problem that I found with a lot of free material, I mean, you get free material from some of the best professors in some of the best schools, but it's really, really very generic. And the fact of the matter is, it's not very successful. You get what you pay for, right? Unlike my free content. So you got to just, like that coach, you have to know the rules. You have to know what to expect. You have to know this: you're going to need to raise money. Every entrepreneur at some point, unless you want to have a lifestyle business, right? If your goal is to have a side hustle, have a lifestyle business where you can make an extra 100 grand, 200 grand a year, then some of these things don't really apply to the greater level that I'm talking about. But if you want to go out and make a difference, if you want to change your world, or maybe even change the world, you really need to know how to play the game. And that's the research, that's competitive analysis, that's naming and branding to position yourself as different than the others. Really, really having the heart of your customer at mind. One of my friends, Robert Richmond, wrote a book called The Culture Blueprint. I suggest everybody get it because it's now mandatory reading at Harvard Business School. And he's one of my advisors. He was one of the founders at Zappos before they got acquired by Amazon. And they were ranked #1 in customer service for 5 years in a row by American Express. When they had a disgruntled customer, they were so happy. And I'm like, this is stupid. Why would you be so happy? Well, they're so happy because they found out if you take somebody that is not happy with what you've done and you can fix it and make it happy, they got 2.5 times better return and better lifetime customer value from those people than they did from people that were happy all along. So you got to learn the game. You got to learn the lessons. You need to know how to speak to your customers, to your investors. You need to be honest. You need to be able to speak to your suppliers when cash flow is not working right, not make up stories. And those are things you need to go out and learn.
So Frederick, I have a question for you. Traditionally, women and people of color don't get investment money, or very few of us do. And what are your suggestions for women and people of color to get a piece of that pie?
That's changing. And speaking from as a privileged white guy, that doesn't mean I can't say the S word on radio, I guess. Doesn't mean poop, hopefully I can say. But there are organizations. So for example, there's a company called chief.com, and I hate giving them a plug because I don't understand why they're valued so high, but it's a URL for C-level entrepreneurial women. And in that particular one, they just raised $100 million at a $1.1 billion valuation. And really, it's just a place where women can go, work together, try to break the rules and get further along than they would otherwise. And a lot of corporate sponsors. In fact, Google is one of the backers of that $100 million round. It's like $5,800 a year, so it's not cheap to go in there and be a member. But a lot of companies are taking on that expense to get you in there and get you in a better position. So that's chief.com. And there are other programs. There are all sorts of grants that you can't get unless you're a woman or a woman of color or a minority. You can't get those. So things are changing. And I would say even with IdeaPros probably, I'd say almost 40% of our entrepreneurs are either women or minorities. And so, you know, we're working hard, and some of our more passionate entrepreneurs are not even US citizens yet. You know, they've come in and struck up a residence, and they have that work ethic that it takes to make it. We even have 10% Canadians, which are foreigners, but in a different sense, and they're really amazing. We actually have partners in, I think, 46 states right now, so they're really widespread. But I hear you. There are additional challenges, but there are more and more groups starting out now that are starting to change that process.
But there's really not anything you can do in the presentation. Maybe have a white male on your team. Maybe that would help. I mean, I had heard that years ago, but really
Well,
there's nothing you intrinsically can do in your presentation or with your company that is going to convince people if they've already decided, right?
although everybody's able to decide what they are sexually, you can say you're a single white man nowadays, and be okay with it. No, little side joke, but
Yeah,
no,
I don't think Richard would go for that.
yeah, you're right. You're right, though. It is a challenge, but there's some really strong and Oprah, I mentioned her before. By the way, Oprah is the reason I stopped the 6-month retirement, but that's another story. But there's a woman that was homeless and living in her car, and you can't just take one example like that, but it can be done. It is harder. I don't know how to make it easier by myself, but I do know that the world is changing, especially in the US, and it's a process. And yeah, hey, if you're a woman, you got to work harder.
So we have time for one more question. And so what is your, like, the one piece of advice that you would give to somebody who's considering a career in entrepreneurship?
Don't dabble. There are so many people that say, God, you know, thank God I kept my day job. Thank God I just kind of dabbled in this, because I tried it for a year. It screwed up. It didn't work. Oh my God, could you imagine what would have happened had I gone all in? Yeah, if you went all in, you would have won. If you're just dabbling, the chances are you're never going to win. So what I would say to anybody is, if you're going to do this, especially if you're young, jump off the cliff and do it and go all in, and be prepared for sleepless night. Scott Perry is one of the guys on my board of directors. 4 years ago, he sold his company to Lending Tree for $300 million. And the company he had before that, he sold for $100 million. Completely bootstrapped, no investors. And a lot of my partners said, well, have you ever had any bad experiences? Because $400 million, you know, you've done great. And his response was, I cannot tell you the number of nights where I laid in my bed, staring at the ceiling in the dark, crying, thinking about whether I made the right choice. So even the ones that you're looking at and admiring, that are doing so great, they've suffered, they've doubted, they thought that they were not right for it. And if you can handle that pain and look at that pain as an opportunity to find a better way to do it, then you should be an entrepreneur. If you want to go in the shallow end with little floaties, you're never going to make it. Stick with your 9-to-5 job.
Excellent.
Well, that's great. So we have to take another break, but really talking with you, Frederick, has just been amazing. And I personally am really taking your advice to heart. And I know the messages you've sent to our audience have been well received. And we'll be back with more Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart after this message. Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, and we are on the road to entrepreneurship today. We have coming up next, Kenya Gipson with Power Move. Hey, Kenya.
Hi, Richard. And for Power Move today, we're going to be talking about entrepreneur and creative Ricky Miller. He is the CEO of Carbandi Vodka, and he's blazing his own trail and redefining what it means to find success along the intersection of entrepreneurship and passion. So he was heavily involved in sports as an adolescent, and he really loved art and he loved culture, and which is what helped him create this luxury spirits brand. And one of the things that I love what he's doing with this brand is he's opening the door for other entrepreneurs who are coming behind him that look like him. So he considers himself to be more of a creator than an entrepreneur, which is different than what we've been talking about throughout the show. But I just thought it was interesting how he kind of found that pivotal shift for himself and went from, you know, playing sports and launching another brand that didn't work out so well, and found himself in the space of the luxury spirits brand. So he is our power move for today.
Excellent.
That only goes to show that sports and culture can lead to drinking.
Oh, and we all know
Or
drinking is-
great
or-
ideas.
we
Right.
all know drinking is very important because liquor stores were allowed to be open during COVID when nothing else was.
That's a good point.
We're essential stores.
So tell us what's going on with Blue Streak and your other projects, Elizabeth.
Thank you. So for those of you who don't know, Blue Streak is a video directory B2B, and it's not made the way other directories are. I'm having the website worked on right now because it is all the other directories are location dependent. This is service dependent. So perfect B2B person for you may not be down the street. They may be across the country. Anyway, there's a lot of different things that go on with this. I don't want to go too much into detail. I don't want to give away all my secrets, but anyway, so right now what I'm doing is I'm really thinking I had to rebrand from Fireside to Blue Streak. And I'm actually reading a lot of business books and trying I'm definitely going to go on Frederick Cary's website after this and get his checklist and look at his 18-minute video.
So am I.
Because I'm doing a lot of research and while the website's being built into exactly what I need to do. Luckily I have a coach and I have a peer advisory group. So I have other people pulling for me in my peer advisory group. They're actually doing things for me, which I'm kind of surprised, but they're very, two very intelligent older men and then a younger woman who's working on her own project. And so that is Blue Streak right now. And then I started a
Well,
podcast.
I'm glad that you're going to go to Frederick's website. I'm going to go there too, but you read more than I do. So hopefully you can teach me some things after you've had a chance to devour his content.
I've actually learned a lot from working in Gearhart Law for the last 16 years because that was a ground zero startup. And sure, there were mistakes, but you know, it helps you to, it's really good to see it close up how a business operates, especially if you can keep it running and keep it successful. So you can see what to do, what not to do. You're probably going to still make some of the same mistakes, but hopefully, hopefully not. Who knows? I think the hardest part of running a business, honestly, is hiring the right people and knowing that even they're going to make mistakes. You could hire someone who's brilliant and they'll still make mistakes. My other project is more of a lifestyle thing. I'll probably be doing this till the day I die. I have a podcast with the young woman named Danielle Woolley, and it's about cats. And I started it because I had a cat that we couldn't figure out why he kept scratching himself. None of the vets could figure it out, et cetera. So we're hoping to engage a community around cat lovers and have them talk about other things. And I had, of course, this is one of my problems is I always have these big grandiose ideas. And I hit Danielle with this at the beginning. She's like, no, we have to start smaller. But I feel like there's a way to build the cat community and do a lot with this. And with Blue Streak, I'm hoping to sell it by 2030. That's my goal. With the cat podcast, I'll keep it forever. So that's me.
And you never run out of things to talk about when it comes to your cats. That is a truism. So
that is a truism. So now
thank you for sharing, by the way.
It is time to move on to our other entrepreneurs. So Janelle Thomason with Cosmakery and the Makeup Loft. Tell us, an Emmy award-winning makeup artist, and also studio received the KNOT award. So I want to hear all about what you're doing.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's great to be here. Well, I'm the owner of the Makeup Loft, which is in downtown Plymouth, Michigan. We do over 300 weddings a year. I have a staff of over 20 artists, and we've been in business for 13 years and made it through the pandemic. Which all weddings were shut down, and we were a little bit more heavily shut down than other states here in Michigan. And in addition to that, I also own a clean cosmetic line called Cosmakery that's really growing and it's really exciting. And we're getting a ton of traction there.
Great. So quick question. How did you pivot during the COVID crisis, especially when so many weddings were like just really reduced in size or virtual, or how did you guys make it through that?
So surviving, from the pandemic, we're a seasonal business in Michigan. We go through all 4 seasons, and I have to get myself through the winter each and every year. So I'm a very good saver. And with that being said, I think I was in a really good position to kind of survive some hardships had they come up. In addition to that, we went paperless completely with our business about that November before everything shut down. So we were able to work remotely, really fluidly, and reschedule over 100 weddings without any missteps, completely remotely.
That's great. So how do you? I like hearing this, that you're a good saver. So you're planning your finances well in advance. So how do you make decisions about how much to save? And also your business is obviously growing, and that usually requires some investment to grow the business too. So how do you decide how much to hold back and how much to invest?
Yeah, so being completely self-funded from the start, I own 100% of both of my companies. I'm also married to a financial advisor.
Wow.
Who has made me very afraid of debt from the get-go. And I'm not saying that all debt is bad debt, but I think it's just really understanding your business, really understanding the seasons. Different seasons require different things, regardless of what you're in. If you're an e-commerce brand, you have to be prepared for Black Friday and Christmas and things like that. So I think it's really understanding the waves of your business and being prepared to have enough capital to do the things that that bring you in the most amount of profits.
So Frederick, do you have any questions or thoughts for Janelle?
Well, I love the fact that she was able to prepare for that gloom and doom that really shut the world down. In my business, it turned out to be a great thing because everybody was home with their computer and their cushy job was gone and the stock market was crashing and everybody wanted to become an entrepreneur. So for me, it was easy. It was like a great year that COVID gave me. But the fact that you were able to think outside the box, I think it's really critical for every entrepreneur, no matter what your business is. And you guys said it as well as our blessed host here. You need to be able to pivot. You need to be able, because there's going to be things that are happening to you, micro things like I can't get the supplies I need to make this product I need, or macro things like the whole world is collapsing and people can't afford housing anymore and the banks are failing, and so there are things going on all the time, and so you have to be like a little chameleon and be able to change. I had in 2008, a year after I got rid of all of my real estate investments, the market crashed. I got rid of them, by the way, because my pool boy and my lawn man were asking me advice on how they can flip the homes they were buying. And I realized, well, who the hell are they going to flip them to? And so I got out of it. But in 2008, I had consulted for somebody that was in that mortgage lead generation business. And within 3 months, I put him into a short selling business and how to get out of bankruptcy and how to get out of foreclosure business. And who did even better on that side of the equation. So as an entrepreneur, you got to be able to look at these things. There's a need. How can you service that need in a different way? And I think you did a great job with it. I wouldn't listen to your husband though, only to the extent on the debt side of it, because if you reach a certain growth model, and this may not apply for your business, but if you receive a certain growth level, your cash flow can't keep up with your demand. And you have to go out and get additional capital. Otherwise, you're going to be able to tell people, hey, I'm sorry, we can't serve you. And when you do that, you really start putting the brakes on a business. So sometimes debt is good when it's fueling growth that you haven't anticipated.
Yes, I totally agree. And that's why I said I am aware that some debt is good debt. Even though I'm self-funded, I have had to get capital and things, especially to grow the cosmetic line. And kind of
Yeah.
something interesting, what you said that kind of brings something up for me is while the makeup loft was closed and I had that downtime is when I really fueled my cosmetic line online. We started working with influencers. Our sales went up almost 300%. I mean, I even feel bad saying that with such a hardship going on. But it was huge for our e-commerce business because like you said, so many people were sitting at home. So it gave me an opportunity to pivot and focus more on the cosmetic brand while the other brand was kind of on pause.
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect. When that whole thing started, I invested heavily in Amazon, in Netflix, and in Zoom because you're going to be home, you're doing video conferences, and you're going to get in a whole bunch of stuff at your house watching movies. So you did exactly the right thing.
That's smart. So Kenya, do you have a question or comment?
I do. I'm curious to know, like, what makes your makeup or your cosmetic line different than all the others in the market? Because I was in Sephora over the weekend, and I swear there's like a makeup for the makeup for the makeup. So I'm curious to see what you're doing to differentiate yourself in the marketplace.
Well, being a makeup artist for over 20 years, and I like to consider myself a makeup artist of the people. You know, yes, I've done celebrities, but I don't like categorizing myself as a celebrity makeup artist. Most of the brands that you're going to see in Sephora right now are either owned by a celebrity who's rarely doing their own makeup, owned by a celebrity makeup artist who is rarely doing anyone other than celebrities. So I feel like there is this space that needs to be filled for women that, you know, don't want to spend an hour or two doing their makeup, which is what, you know, those celebrities are doing. I'm more of like an on the glow kind of girl, I like to say. And with me having real experience, you know, I have clients that are wanting to look good just because they're running errands or they're running for office. So I'm covering all spectrums of women and really having their needs right in front of me, or I'm addressing all of those needs. So I feel like that really differentiates me because I'm actually working with the clients, and I truly have done over 10,000 faces of makeup. That's a real number over the course of my career. And when you deal with that many women in person, you have a different perspective of what they're looking for, what their needs are, and how you can meet those needs.
Yes,
That's
and
great.
for the audience who's listening on radio, Janelle's makeup looks absolutely amazing. So
Yes, it looks,
Thank you.
it looks fun. So I'm
But
gonna-
This
the
is-
Ford Motor executive's makeup doesn't look that great, though, I have to tell you.
I want to know, first of all, do you mostly do the makeup in Michigan? Do you ever travel, or do people travel to you? That's one question. And then I want to know how you got the Knot Award, and if you could explain the Knot to people a little.
Yeah, so earlier in my career, I traveled a lot. I would be out in LA. I would be doing whatever I could, you know, to really make and grow my name, especially, you know, earning an Emmy. That was a lot of hours of set work and a lot of hours of television work. But I love Michigan. I am a Michigan native. I love the Great Lakes. You know, I never wanted to be a celebrity makeup artist, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I had a specific kind of lifestyle I was looking for. And that was, you know, being an entrepreneur, hopefully in a great city like I'm in now, Plymouth, Michigan, and to be a mother and to kind of have it all, you know, the whole girl boss thing, you know, I am woman, hear me roar. I love it. So we do have people travel. I would say about 40% of our brides, honestly, I would have to talk to my staff, but a good 30% are from out of state. People come home to get married. So we have people flying in from all over to have services done. And then the second part of your question, I'm sorry, would you mind repeating it?
How did you get the Knot?
Oh, the Knot
Award?
Awards. Yes, so we have been blessed to win consecutive Knot Awards. I think we've won 10 years in a row. It's literally just by the power of the people. Brides are a very specific clientele, and you have to be a very patient and you know, kind of ready to leave your ego at home type of person when you're dealing completely with brides. Yes, I have an Emmy. Yes, I've done Kate Upton's makeup, but you know, Susie down the corner is getting married and she wants her makeup exactly how she wants it. And I understand that. And I'm here to give her the exact experience she's looking for. So the Knot Awards come from reviews from actual brides. So it is from Raw Reviews. We have over 300 excellent reviews, I believe, on the Knot. And it's really a great tool, I think, as a business, especially in the bridal community, to help continually push yourself. That award means something. If you are a bride or you are in the bridal community, it is a badge of honor, and it is well respected and received in our community. So that's how I win it.
Good for you. For those of you who don't know what the knot is, it's KNOT. When people are going to get married, that's where they go to find their service providers for their wedding. And there are a lot of people that are registered with the knot. Kenya, did you do that?
I did. You kind of just zhuzhed over the fact that, did you say you won an Emmy?
Yes, I'm an Emmy award-winning makeup artist.
Oh, I mean, the knot is fabulous, but an Emmy is like a whole nother level.
I think she's.
It is another
happier with
level.
the knot, you know.
No, the knot is great for my business. I employ over 20 artists, and it kind of puts the seal of approval on the studio in total. The name of the studio is the Makeup Loft. I didn't name it Janelle's Loft because it's not just about me. It is about a seamless experience with no matter who's doing your makeup. I've trained the entire staff, and we want to make sure that it is flawless, and you can't tell a difference between who's doing your makeup and who isn't. And so winning the knot award, even when you have turnover within your company, I am great. I'm blessed to have longevity with many of my artists, but to show that I'm still winning and giving that quality year after year, even if I have, new artists or different people coming through my business as employees, that we're keeping the quality and that seal of approval for our clients.
Ah, yes, to be or not to be.
Anyway, I think that
I think it's that we need to move on to our next guest.
So,
But
thank you. Yeah, how do people find you, Janelle?
They can find us on our website, www.themakeuploft.com, and then they can find my cruelty-free, clean cosmetic line, Cosmakery, at www.cosmakery.com.
Excellent. Thank you. So now we are on to our next presenter, which is also about looking and feeling good, Cliff Brown with Athlete Innovations. Welcome, Cliff. Tell us all about what you're doing.
So Athlete Innovations, I own a performance facility located down in Tampa, Florida. So we service athletes in the off season. I get labeled a lot with the NFL, only because of my background. But I work with anywhere from youth to the professional ranks of all sports. I would say my niche in the industry is more so geared towards speed and people that need to run faster, as well as boxing instructing as well. So I've had a kind of a vast range of everything that I do and have done. But those are primarily my niches. And like right now, we're coming out of NFL Combine season, so the next wave of NCAA athletes that want to make that transition into the NFL, I actually offer a 8 to 10 week program to train those guys. They basically move to Tampa for a few months, and they go through a program 7 days a week with me. They basically become my little minions that run through the program. So they're actually testing right now. So we're actually right flight in the middle of result season, and kind of where guys are going to stack up as they start to head into the NFL draft next month.
Wow.
So specifically then, you run programs mostly for college athletes who are looking to become professional athletes. So when they get into your program, how do you manage them? I mean, do they have big egos? Or because they just got the contract, right, with the NFL, and so they're going to tell you how to do it, right?
So I check egos at the door. Part of it is just like being a business owner. You got to be really militant with those guys, and just let them know they don't know more than me. And I always tell them that. I was fortunate enough to come into the performance industry early. My first job being with the Cincinnati Bengals through a private sector company. So I have my whole rag to riches story that kind of pushed myself into entrepreneurship and kind of getting into this space and understanding, how God was kind of creating this business and everything and how it was going to line up just through my own personal playing experience, being a former collegiate football player, NFL hopeful, as well as a collegiate track runner. Even to now, I actually work with the local university with their track and field sprinters. So everything that I've done, I kind of just turned it into a business. So whenever it comes to, any program that I'm a part of, I just kind of set the tone, right from the go, and let them know, if you trust me, you follow the plan, and we remain on the same team, we'll all get a victory. I'll look good. You guys will win.
That sounds like a great philosophy. So how did you get started doing this?
So, man, it was the most unorthodox thing in the world, man. Like, so I broke my arm my last year of college. I went to Marion University. Shouts out to my university. That was a rather interesting situation. I went there. We won the national championships in only 5 years of existence. How? I don't know. You pull a bunch of guys together and you tell them to go play football together. In a matter of 5 years, we sit on top of the mountaintop. And my last year, I broke my arm. I sat out a year. And then that's what life kind of roughed me up, being a college grad. And then that's whenever I learned, like, okay, how does this whole life thing work? And no one gave me answers. So kind of floated around, journeyed around. I did my time in my car, working out in public gyms, shower in public showers, wherever, in the gyms, crash in the car, get up and keep working. And I had this crazy, crazy faith that I knew that one day I was going to play in the NFL. And I ended up getting a workout with the team. Thought things were gonna go in my favor. I mean, I'm bragging with, it's humble brags, just me and my mom. So, call my mom, dad. I'm like, look, I did it. I think I kind of broke through. And the next day, I remember and coming up on it. So what a day. It was April 1st, 2015. I got the call and they said, unfortunately, we won't be able to sign you. Broke my heart. And I was like, is this just an April Fool's joke? So, ever since that day, I stopped playing on April Fools because that wasn't funny. And then I kind of, just trying to figure out, what my next steps would be, what would I do? And I actually stood outside the NFL Combine and I handed out DVDs, just trying to get myself a workout with a team. And back in 2015, if you Google my name, most people do it. Anytime they encounter me, I had an article that went viral. And it's called Cliff Brown, the NFL Outsider. And I was just handing out DVDs or whatever, any way I could try to get an opportunity. I ended up connecting with the Cincinnati Bengals. A guy introduced me to my great mentor, Cliff Marshall, who's the performance director over at Indiana University. And he just brought me in, was like, man, look, he was like, either you're going to have to pay me or you're going to have to do an internship. Well, luckily I had my degree in exercise science. So he offers me an internship for 3 months. I'm thinking, okay, I could do the internship and maybe, come on with the Cincinnati Bengals with them late or whatnot. Did not happen. I moved to Cincinnati. I stayed in a hotel for about 8 months and I worked at Nike to pay for it. So I did this internship that went from 3 months to 8 months. And then, sure enough, I ended up running the private sector company and got on with the Cincinnati Bengals. So that kind of, transitioned me right into the training field that I didn't see coming. But I just knew that once I was on this side, I knew I wanted to help athletes that were like me, that wanted to, get a break. And, how could I do that? I can't play the game, but I can impact the game by making sure that other people don't go through what I went through.
Wow. That speaks right to what Frederick was saying before about the pivot.
Yeah.
Frederick, do you have a
Exactly.
comment or question?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to know if you can help old guys too. I'll come out there and work out.
Time for push-ups.
The second thing is what you're explaining and what you're doing is kind of what I've been explaining on a more global thing. You came in as an outsider, you didn't know how to play the game. You sat there, you learned your lessons, you got data, and you took that data and did something else with it. You were trying to do something and you managed to find that gem in what you were not expecting, right? And so that ability to pivot and find something new in what you're passionate about got you to where you are today. So right. My kudos off. The only thing I don't like about you anymore is that you were eating a damn steak before we started, and I'm sitting here starving, watching you do that. Other than that, you're awesome, and I love what you're doing. There's an opportunity, it sounds like, to make that a little bit broader and wider, and go into other facilities. And I'm looking forward to your progress.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kenya, do you have anything? you want to say?
Well, I want to say that your story reminds me of a modern day version of The Pursuit of Happiness, which I actually watched the other day, and it always inspires me and makes me cry. But what I wanted to ask you is the grittiness of entrepreneurship that you learned through all those different experiences. Like, how have you been able to take that and implement that into your training programs?
So I take it into my training programs. I feel like I wear that chip on my shoulder, and I'm always mindful of the guys whenever they're going through this. I go, you're not the only person going through something. And just like same in business, I'm not the only person that's going through something. So I kind of wear it on a day-to-day, even as I approach the athletes, but I also make sure that it's also a reminder to myself. So every day that I go in, and things happen, everybody owns a business. We all understand business, but one of the things that I think helped me in going through what I went through from the business aspect is that nothing can happen to me worse than what's already happened to me. My dreams were crushed. So to get bad news or someone's sick or I got to work an extra hour, that means nothing to me. Like I can do that. Like, because the worst thing that could possibly happen to me has already happened to me. So I can work all day. Cool. As long as I can do what I love, which is what I love to do. And I love everyone I work with because I get to choose them. It all flows well. And, even from a coaching standpoint, I try to be mindful of guys, like, let them know, like, no one owes you anything. You can work this hard and still not get what you wanted to expected to get. So no one owes you anything. So your job is to do the task at hand. And as long as they do that, they will succeed, in some form or fashion. I'm not going to say it. And I tell them every year, hey, all you guys aren't getting into the NFL. Hate to break it to you. You're not getting a refund, but you're all not getting into the NFL. But what I'm going to do is do the best that I can for you and put you in the best position possible and do the things that I'm going to do that I know from my experience to give you your best chance. And as long as they bank on that, something's bound to happen. And it's kind of a surreal moment too, because not to throw anything off, but there's a story that's going around right now. I had a guy, so shouts out to him. I really want to credit him and shout out to him. Frederick Jackson, wide receiver from Auburn University. He is on cusp and near breaking the all-time 40-yard dash record, the fastest ever. And so he just came out of the program. So if that stands, he came out of the athlete innovation program and just broke the world record for the 40-yard dash for NCAA athletes.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Congrats.
Shouts out.
And so
Congratulations.
you were eating a steak. What do you tell these guys to eat?
What do I tell them to eat?
Yeah.
Chicken, broccoli, rice. They go, you eating it? I'm like, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, Clifford, are you in good shape? We want to know if you work out as hard as your students do.
So yes, I'm in great shape. So one of the things that I do is I do my body composition once a month, just to stay on top of it. My body's my business card, so I can't let them beat me, right? I work out first. So if I open doors at 5 a.m., I work out at 3. Just so everyone knows you're not doing anything that anyone else hasn't done. So when they go, oh, it's so early, it's 6. I'm like, hey, brother, I was up at 2:30. Let's go.
How many people do you have in the program at a time?
So I limit to anywhere about 12 to 14. That's a good number for me to manage before I start to get into the egos and, guys thinking, oh, coach can't see me. I see everything.
So do you go around the guys and you say, hey, look, you are not doing those push-ups hard enough?
Oh, it's bad. I actually just put out a documentary of the whole program. It's actually on YouTube. It's called Operation 53. And, forgive my language, but yeah, I go at everybody. No one's safe. No one's safe. We have a good time, but no one's safe. They understand. It's all love.
Where do I sign up? It sounds great.
You just did. Come on.
20 years old and
I'll give it my best shot. So anyway, we have to take a commercial break, but Cliff, it's really amazing talking with you. Thank you for sharing your story. And we love what you do. Where can people find you?
You can find me at athleteinnovations.com or via social media, Athlete Innovations.
Okay. Well, listeners, you are listening to Passage to Profit, Road to Entrepreneurship. with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. Our amazing guest today, Frederick Cary. And we will be right back. If you missed the show, well, too bad. I'm kidding.
You're out of luck. But wait, we have a solution for you.
The podcast is out tomorrow, wherever you find your podcasts. And we will be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit with our special guest today, Frederick Cary from the IdeaPros. It's been an amazing show so far, and there's
And a fun show.
and a fun show too. Now it's time for Elizabeth's question, and we call it Elizabeth's question because she dreamed up this idea. And so, what is your question for this show, Elizabeth?
Well, I'm going to ask Frederick first. And the question is, what is a major pain point or bottleneck for your business right now?
Wow. Well, you don't have anything easier? Is there like a second question, or that's my only choice?
What's your favorite pizza topping? Now, let's go with
there
that
you go.
one.
Okay.
No pizza. No pizza.
All right. So for me, the biggest pain point is that I took pain away from entrepreneurs. And it ends up becoming my biggest pain point, because when you're an entrepreneur and when you're by yourself and you run into that brick wall, as I said before, and you got to get up and run through it harder, I've taken that pain away because we literally do everything. And so they'll come with an idea. I train them how to be an entrepreneur. And then I have an infrastructure that does literally every element of what needs to be done, with them kind of standing in the background, watching it all being built. And when there are problems, everybody's yelling at me about the problems instead of being that entrepreneur that says, I got a problem, I got to fix it. And so for me, the pain point is being able to transition people to absorb the pain that I'm feeling with 400 entrepreneurs on my shoulders, and try to convert them to understand that you're the CEO. I'm just helping train you. I'm helping build this. You're the one that's going to have to jump in that car and win the race, or go out on the field and win the football game. Not me. I can't do it for you. So when there are problems, instead of whining, come with solutions. Act like a CEO. That's my biggest pain point.
That does sound like a big pain point.
Yes.
Janelle, what's your biggest pain point right now?
For the makeup loft, it's how large do I want to grow? And it's a good problem to have. You know, out of the 300 weddings that we currently take, we still turn down about 100 weddings a year. And I do that just because I don't want to overextend ourselves, our reputation, or the quality of the service that we're providing. So it's really just kind of understanding, how big do I want to get? How, large geographically do we want to grow? So that's kind of something that we're looking at right now, bringing in new artists, training, and kind of just feeling out our area. I'd like to at least get to a point where I'm not turning down so much business, but, the whole scaling of it.
It's a good pain point to have. So Cliff,
Yeah.
what about you? Yeah, what's your biggest pain point right now?
I would say my biggest pain point right now is to make sure that you have the right people in place for the right assignments. The biggest thing is, people will look in and they love pro athletes, and I don't think everyone looks at the preparational side that goes into it. So just making sure that you're disciplined enough, you're willing to sacrifice enough time, because in this industry, it's not about what you like and what you want to do, it's for the service of someone else. So making sure that, you're in the right role, you're doing the right things, and you're willing to put in the time that it's going to take. Because if you're not willing to do that, it will run you out of here fast. So
yeah, that's a good one too. All these are really good. So Kenya, what's your biggest pain point right now?
Time. I need a clone. It's hard for me to do the stuff here at iHeart that I'm doing and everybody else's stuff. So a lot of times my stuff takes a back burner, but that's only temporary, because eventually I'm gonna get to where I got to go. So
You
Right.
go, girl.
there it is.
Yeah. Okay, Richard, what's your biggest pain point right now besides sitting next to me?
Why would sitting next to you be a pain point? It's one of my great pleasures.
Keep elbowing you.
Bonus
Well,
point.
that doesn't hurt. You're just keeping me on track. I would say right now, my biggest pain point is software. We're in the process of a software transition. And if you want an experience that gives you justification to pull out your hair, you should try migrating to a new software platform, because it's like you're trying to keep
Oh.
things going, but you have to stop some things so they can do the, so it's like jumping off a cliff and trying to build a bicycle while you're in midair. So anyway, that's my pain point.
Yeah, I agree that it is a terrible pain point. And the sad part about that is that the guy that's helping with the transition is super good. Like, he's one of the best people you could get to
And
do
it's
this.
still a pain in the software is what it is. So
So Kenya stole my word, but no, Kenya and I are kindred spirits. Time is really my biggest pain point, because there's so many things I want to do and so many things I have to do. And right now I'm reading Atomic Habits, as well as another book about B2B marketing. And I'm hoping the Atomic Habits will get me back on track to organize my time better. So I really get the things that I want to get done, that need to be done, instead of other stuff that's maybe not going to contribute as much to my bottom, or, the bottom line to the.
yeah, spend more time listening to Passage to Profit, which is what we recommend to our entire audience. All right. It's not like you're not here or anything, right? So is it time to wrap up?
Time to wrap up. So we're going to go through everybody's websites one more time. So our guest was Frederick Cary, founder of IdeaPros. He's a business thought leader and strategic consultant, and you can find him at fredcary.com or ideapros.com.
And go to his website, even just to see the free material, because, this guy is great. He has a lot of knowledge, and it's a great way to pick up extra knowledge for you and your business.
Absolutely.
And official Fred Cary on Instagram, because that's where I'll talk to you every day. It's free, give you advice on how to be a better person, a better leader, and have a better company.
Excellent. Thank you. And then we had Janelle Thomason with Cosmakery and the Makeup Loft, and you can find her at COSMAKERY, cosmakery.com, or at themakeuploft.com.
And she is ready to be or not to be,
Oh,
because she got
no.
the Not Award. I'm going to be saying
Oh.
that all evening.
So Janelle not only is an Emmy Award winning makeup artist, she also has a kit that she's mailing out to people. So check her out if you wear makeup, or you're going to get married in the Michigan area and you want your makeup done. And then we had Cliff Brown with Athlete Innovations, and his website is athleteinnovations.com. If you are trying to get onto a professional football team, or I think you said there were some other sports that you work with too.
I do them all.
Okay. Cliff gives you the training that will give you a leg up on the other people that you're going to be competing against. Where are you located, Cliff?
Tampa, Florida.
In Tampa, Florida. So people fly in from all over. They live in Tampa. They go through his program, and they come out stronger and better. And
I'm gonna sign up, because I've always wanted to play for the NFL.
Come on,
Yeah,
let's
and I want the old, give me the old man program. We want a
There
new
you go.
program.
The guns,
insane.
right? So
well, do you think Tom Brady actually retired?
You know what? Don't even get me started on Tom Brady, because when he moved here, man, rent went through the roof. Price
Yeah.
crazy.
Hey, by the way, he's a vegan like me.
Okay.
No chicken.
No chicken. All right, so it's time to wrap up this week's episode of Passage to Profit. Thank you to the Passage to Profit team, and look for our podcast tomorrow. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And while the information provided during this program is believed to be correct, never take a legal step without first checking with your legal professional. Gearhart Law is here for all of your patent, trademark, and copyright needs. Find us at gearhartlaw.com and contact us for a free consultation. That's it for us. We'll see you next week on Passage to Profit.